And so we're going to continue our discussion, gentlemen, where we're going to be talking about episode 2 of Masters of the Universe Revelations. And, it starts off where we're joined with Tila and her new friend, Andra, who are mercenaries, and they've been hired to obtain the glove of Globula. And what did you think about that part where it starts off where they're on a mission, one of their many missions, I guess, to get that glove?
Our format's changed, by the way.
Yes, you mean in the picture? Mm-hmm. Do you prefer the previous format?
I don't know. Would it be better? Would it be better for continuity?
It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
So I can change it back.
Okay.
It's, obviously it changes dimensions and everything, but go ahead and, oh wow, I like how you can see He-Man.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's so cool.
I think that's great. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
And of course,
it's okay. And TheRichard, of course, that is one of your original artwork, is it not?
Yep.
Yes, and it is really, I have to say that I just love your artwork, TheRichard. I think you make really beautiful pieces. One thing that I noticed also is that you are spot on with the colors. I mean, those colors were so important to those figures in the line, and as you mentioned yourself with the newer ones, maybe they've changed it a bit, but I think that also attracts, children to a quality toys to have, the colors right and those proportions right. It makes a big difference in enjoying the line. So what we were saying is that in episode 2 of Masters of the Universe Revelations, it's called The Poisoned Chalice. And in this episode, we see Tila and with a new friend by the name of Andra, many years after she's walked away from being man-at-arms for the kingdom. And here we see that she's a mercenary, a very successful mercenary. She's getting jobs. And they have this job where they're supposed to obtain the glove of Globula. What did you think of that opening scene where they go and try and obtain this glove?
They've set it up very much like an Indiana Jones Tomb Raider type thing, which is good. We needed to establish that Tila is not a royal guard anymore, that she's going off and she's doing these adventures with new faces. So the way that they set up each of these shows really prepares us for what's to come, and I think that they did a very good job. There's some good flashback combat in this as well, reminding us that she is a badass fighter and stuff, and we get to see her new techniques and our new friends and everything. I think this is a really great setup.
Yeah.
What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I loved it. It was one of these things where, because I like it. I do like things, when the status quo changes, and you get to see new sides to an established mythology. So we get to see Eternia as it would be without He-Man, and it was really cool. It was it was like a sort of a gang on a mission type movie type episode, and it was great. And the flashback was great as well. The sort of, but obviously that's later. But yeah, so we come up to one of our big cameos, and that's Jason Mewes as Stinkor, and he was used, I think, just right, because you can easily overuse Jason Mewes. That rhymes. And I think they made the right decision. They brought him in. He really worked well for that character, and it was a nice, concise scene that gave you, kind of what you needed to move the story forward.
Yeah, and we certainly saw that they were able to handle the world of being mercenaries and, wouldn't shy away from a fight or anything like that. So I think it established, Tila as sort of being a success, even though she walked away from her past. Her future seems okay. Like she's managing to get work and is making a way for her own future there. We also see that once they obtain this glove, the person who hired them, this woman in disguise, as you mentioned, Tony, previously, who happens to be Evelyn, because this is a spoiler review. So, and she has asked.
Surprise there that it was Evelyn, right?
Right.
Yes, obviously it wasn't that much of a shock, but clearly, right after Tila has declared the less we rely on magic, the better off we'll be. They suddenly get another assignment from this woman, and she says, "Hey, I want you guys to pick up." What did she describe it as? A chalice. It's the chalice that she wants them to pick up, and ironically, the chalice is in Snake Mountain.
It has sentimental value to her, she says.
Yes, she does say that. Mm-hmm. And then, it goes on, and of course, Tila and Andra must make their way to Snake Mountain. And we see that flashback that you were talking about, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. With Whiplash, a character that is quite. Here we go. Look, perfect timing. A character that is quite heavily used in this episode. But yeah, so it's a nice little scene as well, and lo and behold, He-Man saves the day because he comes along and they work together to be. It's not like Tila doesn't just become Superwoman and beat Whiplash. They do it together. It's it's almost like they work as a team.
It certainly is a team effort, isn't it? I mean, I'm particularly fond of, and we do see it repeated in the 5-part series. But when He-Man kind of grabs Tila's arms and kind of whips her around, and I love that scene. I was like, I want to do that.
It was like a sort of tag team thing. It was like the Steiners or something.
Yeah,
it was great. It wasn't quite a Frankensteiner, but it was close.
Yes, it was, and then of course, after we see that wonderful flashback, which I imagine Tila might have told Andra about. We don't see her verbally telling her, but I imagine she would say, "Yeah, the last time I was here,
right.
is a certain thing happened," and Tila, talks about how Snake Mountain has a weakness, and she, manages to get sort of on the outskirts of Snake Mountain, and she starts to dig. And I immediately thought, and I don't know if you two thought about this, but I immediately started thinking. I said, well, it's like she's a sapper, for the Army. Those Army combat engineers who are famously known for being able to dig under huge walls and compromise a fortress that way. I thought that was very cleverly placed, and I wasn't expecting that to happen at that moment. It's like sort of like what we would do today. You would have some engineers try to compromise the wall, and they go along the side and dig in there, and hopefully they could find a breach or a weakness, and so I thought that was very good. I really like that part. And so when they get into inside, Tila is quite surprised to see how it's changed in the interior, and of course it's filled with this technology. What can you guys tell me about Motherboard, and what did you think about when she finds Triclops, and what were your first impressions of that?
Yeah,
this is my favorite scene, I think, of all.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was clever, and it felt fresh, and it makes sense that they would, turn to technology, because we already know they have this technology from the vehicles that they seem to be using often, and other things in the series. I just loved it, but there is something kind of interesting, and I was speaking to Tony about this, is that even though it is technology based, they are utilizing, or Triclops is utilizing the chalice in a way to sort of convert followers.
It's a cult. It's a cyber cult, techno cult.
It's to bait the hook, and it's. I mean, you've got Triclops, you've got Whiplash, blast attack, and Trapjaw.
Mhm.
So it's like Whiplash looks quite, because Whiplash has been upgraded.
Yes.
Yes.
And it doesn't look like he wanted to be upgraded.
I'm so excited. These are the characters, aside from Hordak, I'm planning my new paintings. I want to do Hordak first for whatever reason, and then I want to do these guys, especially the new Trapjaw and Whiplash. I think they look fantastic. And isn't that so gory? That's very anime. Like the eyeball comes out of the guy, you know, when they drink the nanobite. The body horror in this episode is fantastic.
Yeah, it really was incredibly creative and fun looking. You know, I want that toy if they make it. You know, like all these things that I think are very important. Yes.
Play-Doh. Unfortunately, Play-Doh's owned by Hasbro though, so I don't think that's going to happen. But it is, right? Yeah. So they'll find a way around it.
I think they will, and I think that one thing that was very interesting was how upset Triclops was at Magic in the episode, where he tells someone that, you know, Magic is the reason why everything's messed up, you know. Yep. And of course, we already spoke about, of course, the irony of him using this chalice which has magic in it, but you know, I think it was interesting that he used this as a reason to get people to follow as well. And so they would
speaking about voice performances, Henry Rollins really knocked it out of the park. Jesus, he was great. He was great in that role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
he was born to play Triclops. Who would have thought? Who would have
thought? Yeah.
Any thought any sort of 60-year-old man would be born? It's the role you were born to play.
Well, he's born to play the cult leader. I would say it more like that. He fits into that, you know, as a musician and as an actor. And I mean, Henry Rollins, very, very, very famous, very, very, very cool, very badass. He's playing a really wicked character, and I believe we will see more of him in the second half of the first season.
Yeah. I sure hope so. And you're right about his performance. It was wonderful. And then we find Teela and Andra have obtained the chalice, and they return back to the old woman who we had already mentioned as, you know, obviously is Evelyn. And she says, I have another job for you. And the ladies, you know, of course, are very curious about what the job is. And apparently it has to do with Grayskull. And to make a long story short, it turns out that the sorceress and Evelyn are working together. And they're working together to, I guess, restore magic, or to restore things to the way, or try to restore things the way they used to be. So what do you think about that that collaboration between the two of them?
Well, and the fact that the goblet ended up being the head of the Havoc staff, and it was one of the few magical items that still had any power. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if that's some sort of foretelling, right? Anyway, so they need to bring all of these items together so that they can rekindle the magic, but they don't really know.
They can't survive without the magic, and them working together makes perfect sense. They're helping each other because they have to get healthy again. There's no way one can survive without the other in that kind of sense. But it's not just them, as we see. It's everybody needs the balance.
They really do, and that's a very, very good point. I mean, this is a magical kingdom, and you know, without the magic, it really will die. And then, of course, at this point, we learn that Teela has been tasked or asked to somehow get the two parts of the Sword of Power and to reunite them in hopes that this will, you know, bring the magic back, so to speak. And you know, of course, this is no simple task at all. You know, each piece, when the sword was used initially to save the universe, each piece, once the sword's separated, was one piece was sent to Pretoria, and then another piece was sent to I can't remember the name of it. Subterna.
Subternia and Preternia. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me a little bit about those two places?
Well, Preternia was originally, so way back in 1987, they were working on a it was called it was going to be called oh God, there was a new toy line anyway. The original toy line was kind of sort of circling the plug hole there, and they wanted to do use the same figures basically and tell a story set in Preternia, which was the prehistoric version of Eternia, and the main character would have been a character called Hero, which Richard will now tell you about, I suppose.
Well, Hero is it was the very, very first of the individuals who helped with Castle Grayskull, or helped with the Power Sword. The very first He-Man, essentially. And we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because go into that in the future episodes.
But that's basically. But then what they've done is they've taken Preternia, which again was prehistoric Eternia, and what they've done is they've changed it a bit, so now it becomes part of the two sides of the underworld, or the afterlife rather.
Yeah, it's for lack of better word, heaven or hell, for lack of better words.
But in this particular mythology, it's specifically for the champions of Grayskull, if you will. So people that died fighting specifically, it would seem, in protecting Grayskull. So that's why. But we'll get there in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And so clearly, it implies that there has to be some sort of quest or journey to get to both of these places. And it's not going to be a simple journey. Fortunately, I think it's at some point, Teela says something about, in regards to agreeing to, get the two parts of the sword and then uniting them together. There's a part where Teela says, the last time I was here was the day Adam died, or something like that, I guess, in the episode. And I kind of think that is the first, or one of the first times. And I think Andra is there, and she kind of puts her hand on Teela's shoulder. And it might be one of the first times that Teela is kind of like just starting to come to the realization of how much she's lost, and honestly, if this could work, it could mean anything in the future. Although I don't think she's imagining that Adam may come back, but let's just say that she realizes that, she's lost so much, and that it's very painful to her. I think that line in the story is her maybe the first acknowledgement of the loss of him and how hard it's been on her. And then, of course, there's also a part where she's reluctant to do this mission. And so I can't remember if someone tells her this, but there's like what I call the "what would Adam do" moment, or "what would Adam want me to do" moment. Yeah. And I don't remember if anybody's talking to her or, what, is going on in that. But let's just say that she decides at that point. And I think it's very interesting that just the notion of her thinking about what Adam would do, what he would want her to do, is what makes her decide she's going to follow through on the mission.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I do recall the feeling of, instead of thinking what would He-Man do, she's thinking what would Adam do. So maybe it did come. Maybe somebody did mention, or maybe she just says under her breath or something to Andra, "What would Adam do?" Something like that. I can't remember. I was just playing it, but I missed that part. Yeah. But it's definitely the vibe is there, whatever it was.
And so once she agrees to this journey, which feels impossible, but of course nothing's impossible in Masters of the Universe. She Evelyn will be going with them because she feels that she needs to tag along. And I think Man at Arms is going to come along with them, or maybe not come along with them, but he now is involved in it more. Well, thanks for joining us again on PGS ALL-STARS and our special series for what we love about Masters of the Universe. Hope to see you again soon. Until then, take care.